This isn't about having a bigger paycheck. It isn't about looking 10 years younger. And it certainly isn't about memorizing clever lines from the internet. The men who leave a lasting impression on women usually aren't the loudest men in the room. They aren't the ones trying the hardest either. They're the ones who communicate something most people never notice. There are two simple phrases that can completely change the feeling a conversation creates. Not because they're magical, not because they manipulate anyone, but because they reveal something women naturally pay attention to. And there's one small detail behind those phrases that almost every man misses. Miss that detail and the words mean almost nothing. Understand it, and you'll become the kind of man women remember long after the conversation ends. Stay with me, my friend, because that final piece is where everything comes together. Now listen. After watching relationships unfold for years, one pattern kept showing up again and again. The men who struggled weren't always lacking confidence. Many were successful. They had careers, families, life experience. Yet whenever they met a woman they genuinely liked, they suddenly became uncertain. They started asking endless questions instead of expressing themselves. They waited for permission instead of showing intention. And somewhere along the way the conversation lost its spark. Meanwhile, another man, sometimes less attractive, sometimes with less money, walked into the same situation and created a completely different feeling. Not because he was pretending to be someone else, because he knew how to communicate with clarity. That's where our first phrase comes in. I want. Sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But think about it with me. Most men soften everything they say because they're afraid of hearing the word no. Instead of saying what they actually want, they hide behind uncertainty. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime. If you're free. I don't know. Whatever you'd like is fine. I was thinking maybe we could do something. Notice what's happening? Nothing is actually being communicated. She's left carrying the responsibility of making every decision. Now compare that with something different. I want to take you to that little Italian restaurant this Saturday. I want to hear more about that trip you mentioned. I want to spend more time getting to know you. Feel that difference. The words aren't louder. They're clearer. And here's what most men get wrong. Clarity isn't the same as pressure. You're not demanding. You're not trying to control anyone. You're simply being honest about your intention. That honesty sends what I like to call a leadership signal. Not leadership because you're trying to dominate. Leadership because you're willing to take responsibility for your own choices. Women notice that. Not because they're looking for someone perfect. Because confidence often sounds surprisingly quiet. Picture this. A man finishes dinner and says, "So, I guess we could do this again sometime." Now picture another man smiling calmly and saying, "I want to see you again. Tonight reminded me how enjoyable good conversation can be." Same interest. Completely different emotional impact. One sounds unsure of his own feelings. The other sounds comfortable expressing them. Trust me on this one. That comfort is attractive at any age. Especially after 50. By this point in life, most women aren't searching for grand performances. They're looking for emotional steadiness. Someone who knows himself. Someone who doesn't make every interaction feel like an audition. So here's where it gets interesting. Using I want by itself isn't enough. In fact, used poorly, it can make a man sound self-focused. That's why the second phrase matters just as much. I appreciate. These two words quietly transform the entire conversation. Because desire without appreciation feels incomplete. But desire combined with appreciation creates emotional balance. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine you're ending a wonderful evening together. Most men stop here. I had a great time. Perfectly fine. Forgettable. Now listen to this instead. I want to see you again because I really appreciate how easy it is to talk with you. Or, I appreciate how curious you are. That's becoming rare these days. Do you hear the difference? You're not complimenting her hairstyle. You're not talking about her dress. You're acknowledging something about who she is. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. People remember how they feel when someone truly notices them. Not flattering them. Not impressing them. Seeing them. There's a world of difference. Look, appearance gets attention. Character creates connection. That's why a thoughtful observation often stays with someone far longer than a compliment about looks. Picture a woman driving home after your date. She isn't replaying every word. She's replaying the feeling. She remembers that for a little while someone genuinely listened. Someone paid attention. Someone appreciated something deeper than the surface. That right there creates what I call a positive emotional anchor. It's a memory tied to a feeling. And feelings are what people carry forward. If this is speaking to you, take a second and leave a like. Not for me. For yourself. It's a small way of saying you're ready to stop second-guessing yourself and start communicating with quiet confidence. Now, before you think these 2 phrases are all you need, let me warn you about the mistake that quietly destroys everything we've talked about. Because this next part has nothing to do with the words themselves. And almost every man gets it wrong. The missing piece is congruence. It sounds like a complicated word, but it simply means this. Your words, your voice, your expression, and your body all tell the same story. When they match, people trust what they hear. When they don't, something feels off, even if nobody can explain exactly why. You know what I noticed? Most men spend hours thinking about the perfect sentence, yet they never think about the way they're delivering it. Picture this. A man says, "I want to see you again." But he mumbles. His shoulders are rounded. He keeps looking toward the floor. His smile disappears halfway through the sentence. The words say confidence. Everything else says doubt. Now compare that with another man. He stands comfortably. He isn't trying to impress anyone. He looks her in the eyes for a moment, smiles naturally, and says, "I want to see you again." Same words. Different energy. And people don't respond only to language. They respond to consistency. That's why your pace matters. If you're expressing appreciation, don't rush through it like you're reading from a script. Slow down. Pause for a second. Let your voice soften naturally. Then say it. "I appreciate how thoughtful you've been tonight." That's enough. You don't need a speech. You don't need dramatic romance. Sincerity is usually quieter than most men imagine. Here's what most men get wrong. They think confidence means speaking louder. Doesn't. Real confidence often means speaking slower. It means being comfortable with silence. It means not feeling the need to fill every empty second with nervous conversation. Women notice that calm presence. Especially women who have lived a full life themselves. By this stage, they've met charming talkers. They've met men who promised everything. What often stands out now is something much simpler. A man whose actions and words agree. Think about it with me. Have you ever met someone who made you feel completely at ease within the first few minutes? They probably weren't talking nonstop. They probably weren't performing. They simply felt genuine. That's the feeling you're creating. Not through tricks. Through alignment. And here's another mistake. Trying to force these phrases into every conversation. Please don't do that. If every other sentence starts with "I want" or "I appreciate," it quickly sounds rehearsed. People can sense when someone is following a formula instead of speaking honestly. These phrases have power because they're used with purpose. Watch what happens when you save them for meaningful moments. You're walking her to her car after an enjoyable evening. There's no rush. No awkward scramble to say something impressive. You simply smile and say, "I want to do this again." Then after a brief pause, "I appreciate how easy tonight felt." That's it. Short, clear, honest. Those few words often carry more emotional weight than a 5-minute speech. Why? Because they communicate 2 things every healthy relationship needs. Intent and appreciation. One says, "I'm choosing this." The other says, "I value who you are." Feel that difference. Now let me leave you with something I hope you'll remember. Many men believe attraction is built through perfect timing, perfect looks, or perfect conversations. Life has shown me something different. People remember how you consistently made them feel. Did they feel relaxed around you? Did they feel respected? Did they feel understood? Or did they feel like you were trying too hard to earn approval? That's the question worth asking. Picture one final scene. The evening is over. You shake hands, or maybe you share a warm hug. You look at her for a moment before leaving. No rushing. No nervous chatter. Just quiet certainty. "I want to see you again." Then one more sentence. "I appreciate the way you made tonight enjoyable." You smile. You head home. And that's where something interesting begins. She's no longer remembering a clever line. She's remembering a feeling. The feeling of being seen instead of judged. The feeling of being appreciated instead of evaluated. The feeling that she spent time with a man who knows who he is without needing to prove it. That becomes a positive emotional anchor. Not because you tried to create one, because authenticity naturally leaves a deeper impression than performance ever could. And whether this connection grows into another date, a meaningful relationship, or simply a pleasant memory, you've shown up as the best version of yourself. That's something no rejection can ever take away. If you're a man who's finished chasing approval and ready to build genuine connection with confidence, subscribe to the channel. Every week we'll keep exploring the quiet habits, overlooked psychology, and timeless communication skills that help good men become unforgettable. Not by pretending to be someone else, but by becoming more of who they already are.